Hey, it's Roberto here. Today I'm joined by my colleague Richard Williamson, Head of Commercial SaaS here at Exponential-e. It's an exciting conversation today, actually, around the Microsoft portfolio and the developments that we've been making. And we really want to talk about and bring to life some of the stories about what we've been up to in the retail, hospitality and leisure space. So, Richard, look, if you can just crack into it. And actually what we want to learn a bit more about is, let's start with your background, what you've been doing here at Exponential-e and some of the context around what we've been doing with Microsoft.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Roberto. So I've been with Exponential-e for 5 years now. 3 of those I've been responsible for the Microsoft business, and we've taken it on a bit of a journey. So we today turn over nearly 20 million in revenues for Microsoft. We look after 500,000 licenses across 250 customers. So we've grown it into a very successful Microsoft practice. Part of that growth has just been ergonomic, so people have just generally developed with us, and this coming 12 months we've just attained Azure Expert MSP status, so we're going to be having a big drive around Microsoft sales into our customer base. And it's not just selling, it's helping customers grow. So we're going to be looking at optimization of the licenses, making sure that they're using the correct license type within their organizations, and just taking them on a journey. It's a massively changing environment currently with all the developments in AI, with Copilot, with Claude, with everything else getting thrown into the mix. We just want to be that sense of logic and that sound of reason for our customers.
Yeah, and there's obviously a lot of change going on in the world. AI, software, Microsoft really, leading that. And Microsoft play a big part with our customer base. I think probably about 95% of the customers that we work with across retail, hospitality and leisure, Microsoft is synonymous with what they're up to. So, where do you think some of the opportunities lie in companies like that?
There's a big change coming on the 1st of July from Microsoft, and some companies are talking about it being a price increase. It isn't. It's a complete portfolio overhaul. So a lot of security features are getting ingrained in every Microsoft SKU. So from business standard all the way through to the new E7 that's coming out, or has come out 1st of this month. So there's a big focus from Microsoft around making sure that you've got the groundwork in place for the coming wave of AI that is going to be hitting. I think the recent survey said something like 3.3% of all Office users currently consume Copilot with Microsoft, but we're seeing that rapidly uptake. We spoke 4 weeks ago, and we have 1,500 users on Copilot. We're now up at 4,500. So in 4 weeks, it's trebled.
Yeah, why do you think that is?
There are some good promotions being offered by Microsoft. They're adding urgency into it, but people are now seeing the benefits. Before it was just a buzzword, it was a nice to have.
Yeah.
Now there are real business implications for adopting AI, whether that be just to make processes slicker and smoother and quicker and free people's time up, all the way through to marketing and finance. Things are rapidly developing. I think for the first time in a long time, I've noticed a trend where people are not standing siloed. So Microsoft are opening the doors to a lot of third-party LLMs to work through Copilot as well. So the businesses that were on the fence as to whether to use the Microsoft solution or go for something like Claude or one of the other solutions out there, they're now able to integrate.
Right. Do you think that's been the biggest shift then? Because
it's certainly, from what I've seen, that's been a big adoption case for the larger organizations.
And do you think that's why people have resisted it for so long?
I think there's been resistance because people are just unsure of the business benefits of using a AI solution. And I think AI has been thrown around for so long that people have almost got a bit sick of it.
Yeah.
Whereas now you can see the real business cases coming out.
Yeah.
Microsoft are in retail and hospitality, they're releasing a lot of Agentic AI solutions. So things like personal shoppers in retail are coming, and they're coming quickly. And it's no longer just a very expensive gimmick. It's actually something that's going to help drive revenues for our retail customers. Hospitality in the same way. There's a lot of... I think the world's going to be a different place in 12 months.
Yeah. That's an interesting one because... with the agentic shoppers, we've seen people like American Express now include policies around protection for agents making shopping purchases on your behalf. So there's clearly some momentum going on in the industry where people are acknowledging, obviously people like American Express are acknowledging that automation and agents are just going to go out and start buying stuff. So
no, absolutely.
The retailers need to keep up.
It's not just going out and buying things. It's not just retail. You look at Accenture have just agreed to take 740,000 Copilot licenses globally with Microsoft. HMRC have just agreed to do 28,000, growing to 50,000. So that trend for AI getting integrated into every part of a business is becoming real. And that's to make it a better customer experience. It's to make things quicker and easier. These agents can trawl the information within an organization in a matter of seconds. It'll take hours, if not days, for humans to do. So that, we're in a world of speed. Everybody wants things today, now, yesterday, if possible. And these agents are helping us drive that forward. It also helps when we're looking at, if we go back to just general Microsoft services outside of AI and the revolution that's coming, it's a great opportunity to look at what people are currently consuming. We've seen cases of people paying for a premium license, but it's only being used as an email client. Part of what we like to do is really dig under the skin and see, where can we give you cost savings? Where can we make sure that you're not overspending? Because I think you pointed out at the beginning, Microsoft is used by 95% of our customers, and it's generally one of the biggest expenditures from an IT perspective. When you layer your 365 licensing with Copilot, with Azure, all of these things, it suddenly becomes a very expensive solution. And part of what drives us as an MSP is to make sure that you're doing it in the right way. We're not here just to make sure you buy the latest and greatest license. Let's make sure what you purchase through Expo is absolutely 100% suited for your business.
Yeah, and that's an interesting one because, particularly within retail, hospitality and leisure, it's not just like any other corporate business where everyone needs, generally the same functionality. Like you mentioned, there'll be a lot of people where the use case is only just an email account to receive corporate information, or maybe to the extent of reporting, information back up the chain. And I think, we've seen lots of customers come to us where they've had, a mission to standardize, which is generally the right idea. But when that standardization is at the detriment of cost optimization, that's really where the opportunity lies. And so, we'll see lots of customers, depending on the size of of their operation, Business Premium might be the right fit for them for the functionality that's generally required for backend. But when that licensing extends to frontline workers, that always seems to be an opportunity where there's inefficiencies in licensing. So what are we doing about that? What have you seen?
There is, and there's been a big shift with Microsoft. If you look at the frontline worker license, that's been around a good couple of years now. And in hospitality in particular, we've worked with multiple organizations where we've taken the frontline worker license, the F1, the F3, and then we've added on the security features. So you get the functionality that you need with the secure access of a standard E5. Microsoft brought out a Intune and Defender suite for Business Premium, which gives you the same protection and security as you get in an E5. So there is a definite shift from Microsoft to standardize, but make sure the product sets are right for your organization size. You look at the difference in cost from an E5 to an F3 with the bolt-ons, $600 for an E5 down to $120 for an F3, when you've got hundreds, if not thousands, of frontline workers who are light touch Microsoft users. There's a big commercial incentive to reassess how you're deploying and make sure that the products provided and consumed are fit for purpose.
Yeah. You mentioned those numbers in dollars. What we're talking about in pounds?
I always do it in dollars. That's how I see it from Microsoft. Yeah. Look, you're looking at £580 versus £110.
Yeah, that's a big saving.
So it's a dramatic saving.
Yeah.
And because you can add the security features from a management perspective, from an IT management point of view, you're only managing one area. You're managing one console. Microsoft are releasing a lot of the Copilot security features in the next release. They're introducing the Intune suite as adding a lot of the components into the new product SKUs that are coming out. So when we said at the beginning, 1st of July, it's not just a price rise. And that's where a lot of companies are missing that this is a complete change in the product set.
Yeah.
Enhanced security, enhanced AI functionality. So now is the time to make sure you've got it right.
Right.
One thing I say to a lot of our customers, and people are sick of me saying it, you can always grow with Microsoft. You can't retract. So start off at the very basics. If you need to enhance, but don't go at the top end if you're not going to need it.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point because people do get sucked in, and if they're familiar with the Microsoft ecosystem, there's few alternatives that are viable for the scales of operations that we work with and the functionality that they need and just the ways that their workflows operate. So you're kind of strapped to this ecosystem, right? You kind of have to be in there. And I think the world that we're in right now, there's a lot of pressures in the market. There's a lot of pressures coming around, from government policy, changing how people need to be paid, or other levies that are being put on organizations. We're seeing pressures from the supply chain, not just technologies, but lots of other areas across that supply chain. And so it's the cost pressure really that's really affecting the market that we're talking about. So we talked about these optimizations around licenses. We've talked about Frontline Worker really come into its own, and really making a dent in customers that come to us and see opportunities to save on those costs, optimize their licensing, but remain within that Microsoft ecosystem. I feel like that's the bit that's really key.
It is. And, organizations have spent a lot of years now using the Microsoft product set. Everybody's comfortable with it. Sometimes it's easy just to go, well, we'll pay that extra. But in today's economy, you want to be making sure you're utilizing every single piece that you've got. Microsoft are very, very clever when it comes to how they build out products. A couple of years ago, if you talked to me about security in Microsoft, I'd have laughed. I just would have said it's not fit for purpose. Today, 100%
viable
is
contender.
One of the better products out there. So I'm seeing a trend of people have made an investment in Microsoft, and it's starting to displace the third-party vendors.
Yeah, things like Defender, that's Prime.
Yep. You've got Defender Suite that's included with the majority of the products now, or you can buy it as a standalone. That's displacing your Sophists and the McAfees of this world, the stalwarts who have been there for a long time. It now becomes a commercial decision. Do we want to spend X number of thousands or tens or hundreds of thousands of pounds more for a product that we're already getting included in an Office suite?
Yeah, the answer is no to that normally.
Yeah, and Microsoft, again, it's no longer an Office application. It's Copilot apps. Everything is being driven with that underlying embedded AI solution for businesses going forward. It's all about productivity. Can you, as an organization, get the best out of your people using our Microsoft tools? And that's how they're presenting this now. It is a functional modern workplace suite.
Yeah. And that's the bottom line. I think productivity is key. In the market that we're in right now, especially with things going on in the world, the bottom line is key to success. There's a lot of businesses that aren't faring that well, and so they're looking for ways to just optimize their workforce, be able to do more with less. Mm-hmm. And so when companies are coming to us, where do you think they should start?
The easiest way is for us to just have an unbiased assessment of their environment. Over the years, we have saved companies hundreds of thousands of pounds just by having a look at what they've got, but how they're using it. There are ways to stack different licensing models that suit an organization's basically modus of working, instead of it being take the E5 because it does everything you want plus 20% more that you're never going to use.
Yeah.
Let's look at Business Premium with the suites added to it. Let's look at an E3 with a different component bolted on. Let's look at what you're wanting to achieve, and it's outcome driven. Microsoft, as I've said to all the sales guys here, it's a door opener. It's a necessary evil. It's something that people need to consume for their business to work. All the other wonderful things that Exponential-e do come around the back of that. So our cloud services, our network services, our telco services, everything else hangs off the back of that customer's environment when it comes to Microsoft. So if you don't have a great, it's our favourite statement here, isn't it? Your cloud's only as good as your network. So if you don't have strong underlying networks, you're going to have a bad experience when it comes to Azure 365, specifically AI. AI is very resource hungry.
Yeah.
So
making those calls every time and generating those answers and outputs.
From my perspective, we've got a good sized Microsoft business, but only a small percentage of our customers even know that we provide these services. And I think we can give a much more, pleasurable's the wrong word, but we can give an easier environment for people to work in if we're providing multiple services that are all stacked on top of that underlying network. So if we do the 365, if we do the Azure, if we do the support, we can engage with Microsoft around funding streams, because obviously being a Azure expert MSP, a lot of doors have opened to us for funding.
Wow. What kind of doors?
There's programs such as Azure Accelerate, where as a partner we can nominate a customer instead of waiting for Microsoft to nominate the partner to a customer. We can basically go in and say, we know that your Azure revenues are going to be X amount of money. Therefore, there is a fixed pot of funding at Y that is available to you. And that can range from anything from $15,000, and it's all done in dollars, $15,000 up to $300,000 per customer.
Nice.
We're also an ESIF registered partner, and customer incentive funds. So we can get funding for Azure deployments. We can get funding for Copilot deployments, for security deployments. So unlike a lot of MSPs out there, we pass all that back to our customers. We don't retain any of it. We just go, this funding will enable you to cover the deployment costs. It will give you pre-sales from Microsoft. So for security and Copilot, it will enable you to do zero trust assessments, make sure your environment's suitable. What you don't want to do is unleash AI into an environment that's non-secure, for example. That's why the funding's available for both those product sets.
And just on that, what kind of risks or challenges have we seen when people have just gone out there and just bought Copilot and just let it run wild?
There are various different scenarios that can go wrong. Fortunately, I've not come across them too often. But, the original one, when we first started talking about Copilot in March 2023, Rodri and I were over in Dublin with Microsoft, and they were introducing Copilot as this new thing. And the first thing we all said was, right, so if you're allowing this tool to essentially go through all your data in your organization, I can find out what the CEO's salary is. I can find out what his remuneration package is, because people don't always save information in the correct location. So you may think it's secure, but this tool doesn't care what it's finding. It's going to find what you ask it to find. So security is so key to that. Data loss prevention, tagging, labeling, making sure everything's locked away. If you don't want people to have access to it, don't give the tools access to it.
Okay, so that sounds like an interesting, avenue, and I think, perhaps an opportunity that people can engage with Exponential-e, experts like yourself and the Microsoft practice, and explore, how to make the most of Microsoft.
Yeah, we've got a complete security business unit that can focus around Defender and Microsoft Sentinel, which is the Azure security piece. We've got the Microsoft team and cloud overlays who can talk about licensing, talk about the Microsoft ecosystem as a whole and how we can benefit you. So yeah, it's just a matter of having a conversation with us.
Yeah, I think you're really bang on there around customers knowing what we do and elevating their understanding about the opportunities that we can offer. Extended opportunities outside of the telco and other cloud services that we provide. This public cloud mission that we're on, and so it's obviously a sizable piece of our business. Obviously, for us to be recognised by Microsoft as Azure expert means that we've put a lot of effort in.
The thing for me is, you look at, we're an Azure expert MSP with Microsoft.
Yeah,
we're a VMware Pinnacle partner. The two things don't conflict. They're actually, quite compatible. So hybrid cloud, using public cloud, using on-prem solutions such as VMware or Azure Local, that is where we're going to start to see things really accelerating.
Yeah.
There's a lot of issues around capacity out of UK South and UK West, and they're only getting worse. People are unable to spin up virtual machines. If you've got a hybrid platform, you can do it locally.
Yeah, but you're also having the same challenges with memory shortages, memflation, people are saying. But
that happens every couple of years.
It does. Obviously, in 2026, we've got other issues in the world, and that's impacting what's going on from a technology standpoint. And so people trying to get their hands on physical assets, physical servers. Sometimes that's the right thing because they're trying to move away from whatever they've built in public clouds. And obviously, this other challenge is now causing restrictions around what they can do in there. So actually, they're forced to use something that's available if they need it.
Yeah, and that's where I look at us being the best of all worlds. Because we've got the public cloud with Azure, we've got the on-prem solutions with VMware and Azure Local, but we've got our own shared data center platforms. So if customers need to move from the cloud quickly, we can move them into our shared platform with a view to get them into dedicated platforms when they're ready.
Yeah.
So There are very few companies out there who can offer what we offer from a cloud perspective.
It's powerful, yeah. We can take
Very
people
powerful.
on a journey if they're not ready, or potentially they're still developing, what their strategy is and how things are going to work in their world. We can definitely help there.
You look at, I think there's only 7 or 8 VMware Pinnacle MSPs left.
Yeah,
in the whole country.
we made it.
We made it, and there's 44 UK-based Azure Expert MSPs.
And we made that.
I don't know anybody else who's both.
Yeah. All right, nice one. Well, look, thanks a lot for joining us. You've given us a really good insight around, what we're doing in the Microsoft space, how customers can engage with us, potentially opportunities that they can unlock with us and with Microsoft to make the most of their licensing. So, yeah, thanks a lot, Richard, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Cheers.